All right, we're all set. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining the last session of the day, so I appreciate you all sticking around. I'm excited to be here at ETHDenver. My name's Kev Silk. I'm a senior product manager at Ankr. We're a globally distributed blockchain infrastructure company, but today I'm thrilled to talk to you all about how ZK proofs and blockchain technology are going to transform ownership of our digital identities away from corporate networks back to where they belong, into the hands of the individual users of the internet. Now, in order for me to paint the picture for how ZK proofs make this possible and the true value of ZK proofs, I think it's important to consider and remember how our digital identities are currently used and stored in the Web2 world. Now, this is the Web 2 that we've known for the last, 20, 22 years, right? We have different logins, different passwords for the platforms that we use. And although we don't need to pay in the form of currency or monetary currency for that matter, nothing in life is free. That's something that I believe. And there's trade-offs with everything. So what we lose to navigate these platforms in a free way is our digital identities. And what do I mean by that? Well, while we're on these platforms, every move we make, every click of the mouse, click of the keyboard is a data point. And when you combine all those data points together, it creates your digital identity. And when we have different platforms that we use, this means that we have fragmented and numerous digital identities spread across the web. And not only that, the different platforms that we use, all of their servers are stored on centralized databases, right? Which means they're vulnerable to hacks and exploits from malicious actors. And the world is becoming more digital by the day, right? When we look around, we're all on our phones, we're all on our laptops, which means our digital identities are becoming just as important, if not more relevant, than our physical passports or our social security cards. Now, the real danger here is that as the world becomes more digital, we don't own our digital identities, at least in the Web 2 world. That's a severe concern, which is why we all love Web 3, right? It's why we're all at ETHDenver, because Web 3 and blockchain technology creates a shift. It transforms the users of the internet from products being sold to true owners, to consumers. It allows us to navigate the web in an anonymous way. We're able to interact with decentralized applications. We're able to transact in a peer-to-peer manner. We're not being tracked. We own our data. We're creating content that we own. But with that being said, there's trade-offs with everything, right? So what we gain in this level of being able to interact in the web in an anonymous way, we lose application security. And what do I mean by that? Well, wallets can be targets for hacks, and DeFi platforms can be targets for rug pulls and other scams. And it's not the fault of the platforms. It's not the fault of the chains or the dApps. It's just the inherent nature of Web 3. We gain more power to the consumer with less security. So basically, the trade-off here is consumer data privacy and application security. But what if there was a way that we could have both, right? What if there was a way that we could empower dApps and chains to have that Web 2-like KYC security without giving up consumers' digital identities? That's the missing step. Wrong slide, which is right there. If we can somehow create Web 2-like KYC security that integrates ZK technology, it will empower dApps to build a more safe user experience while maintaining users the ability to own and control their digital identities. Now, what this could look like is something like this. Now, ZK proofs from a high level, as we all know, basically allows you to prove you know something without relaying what that something actually is, right? It's like me going to my bank and proving that I am in fact an account holder without relaying my social security number or my account number, right? So if we incorporate this level of ZK Web2-like KYC security, it will empower dApps or chains to create rules for entry. For instance, you need to be above the age of 16 in order to enter. But it will allow consumers to prove they do in fact meet that policy. For instance, they are above the age of 16 without revealing that their name is John, that they're an American citizen, that they're actually 19, and that they live on 1032 Broadway Street, Denver, Colorado. It's a win-win situation for both parties. It allows dApps to build safe and secure environments, removing malicious actors, incorporating KYC and AML. And it also empowers consumers to be able to maintain ownership of their digital identity, so having that true Web3 feel. Now, something like that is possible. Something like that is actually live out in the market right now, which leads me to my next slide, which is Ankr's latest innovation. Our latest product launch about a month and a half ago, Ankr Verify. Ankr Verify at its core is a ZK privacy authenticator tool. It allows dApps and chains to create policy, rules for entry, that users need to prove that they meet. But the real innovation, the real power of Ankr Verify is the fact that we enable consumers to create their digital identities and prove they meet those policies without giving up any irrelevant information that isn't important to the policy, so maintaining ownership of their digital identity. And we do that through our partnership with KYC protocol Synapse. So essentially how it works is consumers create their digital identity with Synapse. They connect their wallet address, and they implement their passport information. All of that information is stored on a smart contract held by Synapse. Synapse is the only controller, the only holder of that information. The Ankr Verify nodes, the decentralized set of nodes that we have, checks the Merkle root of the smart contract stored on Synapse to ensure that users do in fact meet the policies. The dApps and the chains don't have access to that digital identity. All they know is that consumers are truly meeting those policies. Now, there's a lot going on in this screen here, but let me break it down for you. This is essentially how Ankr Verify works. On the left-hand side is where consumers create their digital identities. So as I've mentioned, they go to a UI that's controlled by Synapse. They connect their wallet address, they put in their passport information, they create their digital identities. On the right-hand side, we have the dApps or the chains. So all of our clients at Ankr Verify have a simple UI, and they're able to create any type of policy that they want. Now, in this case, it's the user needs to be based in the US, and they need to be over the age of 18. Now, when a user wants to prove that they meet a policy for this chain or this dApp, they submit a proof request on the Ankr Verify UI, which means they are requesting proof to meet that policy. And when they do so, the Ankr Verify node checks the smart contract, the Merkle root of that smart contract held by Synapse, to ensure that this wallet address does in fact meet this policy. It doesn't look for any other information. And it's key that Ankr does not store this information, nor does the dApps or the chains. And if and when the user does meet that specific policy, we send the proof back to the consumer to hold in their wallet and to the dApp or the chain so the consumer can enter. Again, it's a win-win situation here because it allows dApps to create these policies that Web2-like KYC security without the consumer data issues. It allows consumers to hold on to their digital identity. When I think of a user experience, what's key to a user experience? Safety, ownership of one's digital identity, but also convenience. A convenient user experience, which is why with Ankr Verify, when a user submits a proof and proves that they meet a policy, they only need to do it once. They don't need to continuously prove policies. This provides a more convenient user experience for the consumer, which of course makes the dApps and the chains more valuable. And speaking of a convenient user experience, one of the things that's very important is how do we empower developers to provide a convenient user experience as well as a safe user experience? Which leads me to my next slide. Now, in order to drive mass adoption in Web3, we need to, of course, bring ownership of digital identities back to consumers, but we also need to have a quality and convenient user experience. Now, what you're looking here on the left-hand side is the login with Google feature, right? Now, this has nothing to do with KYC, but it's a convenient feature, right? When I'm on Spotify or YouTube and I don't have to go to another UI and I can easily just log in with Google, it's convenient. Or the pay with Apple Pay, right? It's convenient if I'm on any type of website where I'm buying something and I don't need to go and grab my wallet and plug in all my credit card information. Although it only take about 3 minutes, it's just convenient to pay with Apple Pay. And the reason why I bring this up is because we incorporated a feature within Ankr Verify that's called Sign In with Ankr Verify. And what this means is dApps and chains don't have to force their consumers to leave the UI. They can stay right then and there. So for instance, if a consumer, say, hasn't created their digital identity yet, and they access a specific chain or a dApp that's a client of Ankr Verify's, they don't have to leave the UI. They click Sign In with Ankr Verify, and everything that happens here on the back end is hidden behind this UI. Meaning they can actually submit their passport information, create their digital identity right then and there. Or if they already have their digital identity and they just need to submit a proof, they can do it right there. Again, everything that happens here is hidden by this UI. And then, of course, the other situation is if they already have their digital identity and they've already submitted the proof, all they have to do is just log in. It's a safe, secure, and convenient user experience. Now, I can talk about Ankr Verify all I want, but I want to drive some evidence or proof, no pun intended, of this actually being used and the true value that it has. So, we partnered with Eclipse. Eclipse is an SVM chain that's on testnet right now. It's coming to mainnet very soon. And they wanted to incorporate a true security around their protocol. They wanted to empower consumers to own their digital identities while empower the developers who will soon be building high-quality decentralized applications on Eclipse to provide that level of security and safety and remove malicious actors. But they didn't want to have fragmented digital identities. They didn't want to have the poor consumer data privacy of Web 2. So they integrated Ankr Verify. And by integrating Ankr Verify, every dApp that will soon be deployed on Eclipse automatically gets to be able to leverage this security protocol, which means their application becomes automatically more valuable because it's a safe and secure environment where people on the platform automatically get KYC'd and AML'd, but they maintain ownership of their digital identity. And not to mention that these developers and these dApps don't need to build that security protocol in-house. They get it automatically. It allows them to focus on their projects rather than building an additional tool to make the user experience more safe. That's key. And it's a domino effect, right? Let's start with Eclipse. Eclipse is empowering developers with this tool, which attracts the top developer talent to Eclipse. Builders will want to go there. And consumers will feel a safe environment, which of course will attract more consumers to these dApps, driving more interactions, which of course drives more revenue for the dApps, which ultimately makes the Eclipse blockchain more valuable. And there's numerous industries that we've started to gain traction from this specific solution. And it could go from anything from supply chain to retail to sports to entertainment, because the level of customization that these dApps and these chains or these projects that will soon be building in Web3 it's endless. They can build any type of policy that they want, whether it's citizenship or age, residency, college degree, anything at all. The level of customization that they have is very important because each industry will soon have their own specific compliance requirements that they need to meet. Which leads me here. Enterprise use cases are probably the most important when it comes to Ankr Verify. And in fact, they're the most traction that we've gained thus far. Starting with dApps and blockchains, of course, as I mentioned, Eclipse and chains themselves, they'll be able to provide the value to the dApps building on top of them by not having to force them to build these types of privacy authenticator tools by themselves. But banks is also a very important one. It's one that we started gaining a lot of traction from. And the reason for this is because any bank across the globe, not just in the United States, of course, they're all starting to move into Web3, right? We've started to see Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF, and JP Morgan lately just announced plans to move into the blockchain space. But banks know that they will need to meet compliance. They will need to meet the regulation for the securities laws for their specific jurisdictions, which means they're going to have specific rules that they will need their consumers and their clients to be able to prove about themselves. And that's exactly what Ankr Verify allows them to do without giving up the ownership of their digital identity. That is what allows them to move into the blockchain space and provide that level of security. And for government level projects, this goes from anything from voting on presidential elections, if you need to prove that you're a specific citizen of a country, or even regional levels. This type of security is very important for these top enterprise use cases. And this is what we've started to see from some of Ankr's biggest partners, Microsoft, Tencent. All of the biggest names in this space, of course, are starting to move in, and they know that in order to do so, they need to provide a secure and safe, but also convenient user experience to attract developers to go and build on their platform, and to attract consumers to feel safe, to know that there's a far less chance for them to get hacked or to fall for a rug pull, right? Because at the end of the day, as I mentioned before, the world is becoming more digital. And it's imperative that we take control back away from corporate networks, the ownership of our digital identities. And that's exactly what ZK proofs, and more specifically, Ankr Verify, empowers individual users of the internet to be able to have. Thank you all. Appreciate the time. If anyone has any questions, I'll be here for the rest of the week. And thank you all.